This episode contains candid conversations relating to eating disorders and mental health issues. If you or someone you know is struggling with an eating disorder, please seek professional help. The National Eating Disorders Association Helpline is available at 1-800-931-2237. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Creative College Journey podcast, the place to help raise awareness on the many pathways to a creative life and education and how college might be a part of it. Because it's not where you go to school, but how you go to school that counts. Hosted by professional creative and college expert, Scott Barnhart, who is chatting with a variety of guests who have some amazing lived experiences from different universities, majors, and creative industry interests. And we hope by hearing their stories, it might help give you some inspiration to find your own creative college journey.
I am thrilled to welcome my next guest today, Robyn Baker, who I knew as Robyn Yamanaka. Robyn is someone who I went to high school with at Los Alamitos High School and Orange County High School of the Arts, now Orange County School of the Arts. Many moons ago, she was a sophomore when I was a senior. And Robyn is someone I've always been a big fan of. When I think of that sophomore Robyn, I see an exceptionally talented human and someone who is so very kind. But I never knew until recently that we shared a college rejection letter pain point together, that we both had it, and she made this amazing Facebook post about it. And it's an experience neither of us were really prepared for, and one that we've both been working on healing for decades. And the second I read it, I was like, I want to discuss this on this podcast. And I'm grateful she graciously agreed. Robyn Baker is a homeschooling mother of three and a graduate student at Brown University, getting her master's in public health, as well as having received her bachelor's of science from Cal State University Fullerton in kinesiology. Robyn has worn many hats over her 42 years of life, including singer, actress, personal trainer, Pilates teacher, yoga instructor, author, restaurant hostess, business owner, and recovery coach. She's grateful for all the wisdom and opportunities she's been blessed to acquire and experience over the years. She is an advocate for eating disorder recovery, size body diversity, and health equality and accessibility. She hopes to one day create a healthcare system that truly values all lives. And if anyone can do it, it's Robyn Baker. On a personal note, while it's been a long time since we've seen each other in person, I am so impressed with her online presence, her activism, her nuanced sharing of parenthood, and giving voice to the many issues she is so passionate about. Robyn is a brilliant example of how creativity can infuse every corner of your life in powerful and dynamic ways. So with that, welcome to the podcast, Robyn Baker.
Thank you so much, Scott. I know it's been so long.
It's been a minute. Really quick question up front. Give us a little update. How are you? Where are you? I know you just started your program at Brown, online, I believe.
No, I'm not flying back and forth. That would be fun, though.
That would be a tricky commute. You're also a mom of three. So tell us, actually, how are you?
I'm tired all the time. Well, no, I've actually, it's interesting. I think since my youngest now is 4.5, sleep is actually coming back to me, which is amazing. Yes, I love the sleep. So, I'm doing okay. I'm doing a lot better than I was probably, I'd say 3 years ago when we started homeschooling and I was trying to figure everything out and there was a huge learning curve.
Yeah.
I've found my homeschooling, the community they now have friends that are homeschooling people. And so I've rebuilt kind of my friendship circle with different moms that have kids that are homeschooling. We've found a lot more resources. We had to move the summer of 2020, which was really hard. So we're finally getting used to our area. There's been a lot of just big shifts, big redefining what things mean in my life over these past 3-4 years. And I mean, I think it even began when my first was born, when he was in 2012. So, I mean, I think motherhood and any kind of parent experience does that to you. Like everything just shifts. Someone warned me when I was pregnant, they're like, nothing's ever going to be the same. And I'm like, all pregnant people with their first pregnancy, oh yeah, sure, nothing's going to be the same. But it's so true. Nothing is the same after you have children. Everything shifts, priorities, everything shifts.
Yeah. Changes literally 10 years in the making. That totally makes sense. Woo. Yeah. Hey, you're doing it, my friend. You're doing it. I ask everyone, how do you identify creatively? And I actually love this question for the moms out there. Often I get moms who are parents of actors, and I ask them, how are you creative? And they're like, oh, I'm not talented. I was like, that wasn't the question. I actually asked, how are you creative? And I know you are creative, like, head to toe. Talk to me. How do you identify now as a creative?
So I think creativity for me, when you use it as a form to like when you perform and stuff, that's so different from how it has served me in my life. And so I don't know like how to answer how I identify with creativity, but how creativity has served me is it has been in every area when I've really struggled, it's been there for me. So it's been my outlet from day one. My childhood was difficult. So creativity was really a way to escape so many things. Like being able to go on stage and pretend to be someone else for a couple hours was the most relieving part of my day because I didn't have to be me. And then I think for creativity wise, what got me through the pandemic when it first hit was creativity. Like that was all I had to figure out, how am I going to keep the kids interested? How am I going to entertain them? What are we going to do? How am I going to teach them? And it was like none of the resources with traditional homeschooling was available. So I had to like make a bunch of stuff. I had to create a bunch of stuff. And I was like pulling everything out of how can I create this? What can I do? Because if I just accepted that's not available and just said, no, we can't do that, then I'm like, well, no, there's a way I can figure this out. So I think creativity has just been, it's always been to serve. It's been my service to myself to get me through any type of rough time in my life. I still do that. So I still sing, but I sing because I'm like, I need a release. And it's my relationship with my artistic side has really changed. And I've had to figure out how that fits in my life because I'm like, I'm not going to say no to it because I did for a long time. And that really gutted me. And I'm like, well, it's part of me. So I can't say no to it. So how does it fit into my life? So it's served me as a way to be, it's therapy. When I was in treatment several times, we did art therapy. So painting, drawing, I did that a lot the past couple of years. Whenever I was like, I need to do something, I would paint, I would draw, and I have things stored away.
Yes.
But it was I see myself creatively as someone that uses it to work through crap, work through things that are hard. And I wouldn't have said that, I don't think, in OSHA. I definitely don't think I would have seen it that way. But coming this far in my life, and who knows how it'll evolve as I get older. But it's been my savior, I guess, in a way.
Oh, when you talk about it in that sense, you're sort of like bringing up this idea of the drivers, like what drives your creativity, what really is in that driver's seat. And I think for many, even though we don't talk about it, it is that idea of self-expression, life enrichment. It's the thing that helps us make sense of the world that in many ways does not make sense, especially to a youngster. So that's really interesting. I agree with you. There are aspects of my drivers that I don't think even though they were fully at play at 16, 17, 18, I don't know that I could have put voice to them. So that's really interesting. Okay, we're going to dive in. Where I saw that Facebook post. I saw that Facebook post a few weeks ago. You were announcing that you were starting your master's at Brown, which is like also so exciting. And I loved how you tied this whole story together. But you mentioned for your undergrad, you had applied to the BFA in musical theater program at NYU. So had I. And you received a rejection letter. And you said that it was one of the lowest moments of your life and has haunted you ever since. Same girl, same. I absolutely experienced that same rejection from what I presume to be the end-all be-all dream school. I genuinely thought, even though I had done zero research, that's what was going to make me. That's what was going to validate me as an actor. So I know I internalized a lot of pain because of that rejection. I didn't really know how to talk about it. And so that's why we're here today. And I think we're not alone. I think a lot of people silently take a rejection from a school, a dream school, and they let it be a final verdict about their talent, their intelligence, their worthiness, which is wild because if you actually know anything about admissions, it's often a complete lottery. So the whys of the rejections they're not clear cut. So it's wild. So I'm curious. I want to go take us back to that moment for you, and we'll sort of compare notes, as it were. Why do you think that moment was so impactful for you?
I think because, just like you said, it was like everyone's like, NYU, that's the school. You got to get in that one because they have the best program. They have the best musical theater program. And it was just like, it was like this mecca, right? It was like this place that if you got into, it was the deal was sealed.
Yeah.
So it was like, I got to get in because if I get in, then my path is set. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be able to do that. Everything will be all lined up. The ducks will be in a row. And so I just put so much emphasis on that. So going back to when I heard the rejection, I think the hardest part for me was if I really look back at when my eating disorder started, it wasn't that point. It was before that. So I had already started really struggling with different aspects of anorexia before that in the fall of my senior year.
Yeah.
And I think just the pressure of it being the fourth year of being in OSHA, figuring out what the heck I'm going to do next, where am I going, all the unknowns, all the things that were out of my control in my life, living at home with an alcoholic father, that wasn't safe, going to school where it was you're judged every second and you get critiqued every second, that's not safe. So everything just kind of started piling on. Yeah. And not getting enough sleep because I lived in Roland Heights near Diamond Bar. So my commute was insane. So I would have zero period. I'd get there at 6:50, which meant I'd wake up at 4:30 in the morning. And so it was to beat traffic. Yeah. And I was driving myself at that point and a carpool. So I was responsible for other people's lives.
At 4:30 in the morning. Yeah.
Well, we would drive like around 5:30 because, I was a high school senior, so I had to get my hair perfect, my makeup perfect, etc. So it took me a while to get ready. Nowadays they'd be like, forget it. I'm just like rolling out of bed, whatever. But anyway, so it was my eating disorder because of all this had already been in motion for a little bit. And then, so I was already pretty fragile at that point.
Yeah.
And then I got the news when we were touring with Kids Next Door and we were in Las Vegas. And so my parents, I think it was like in between a performance or something, they caught me at the hotel and told me. And I was not prepared for them to tell me then. And I almost thought to myself, like, why are they telling me now? I'm in the middle of to like go on stage now. Like what? And I want to cry. But I think because I was already struggling so much with all the pressure, just so much stuff. And then hearing that was just like a huge, just big gut punch because in my mind, that was, like I said, the only way to what I wanted.
Yeah.
And so if that was a no, that meant to me, my voice told me I was not good enough. I was ugly. My eating disorder would tell me I was fat. I was like all these bad things that, I'm not saying fat is bad, but my eating disorder would say you should have lost more weight because they probably liked you more if you were skinnier. All these things that aren't true that I know now, but it was just like all this stuff. So that really escalated my eating disorder at that point, because that was such a huge, like, all of my self-worth was based on the external validation.
Yeah.
And for it to be no, it was like, well, you're a piece of crap.
Yeah.
You don't deserve anything. And you should really just stop what you're doing because you suck. So that was basically what was told to me from that. That was why that was such a huge gut punch for me.
And I think when we like even go a little deeper into this in comparison to everyone's like, why do you focus on just the creative arts in your work? And I was like, because it's different, because it's literally different, because of this aspect, this idea that a rejection is we as artists, we identify with our work. We identify literally with our bodies that walk into the rooms for auditions. That's what gets put on the line. So when there is a rejection, it's different. It hits
it's much different.
It's not a GPA. It's not an SAT score. It's literally you in the room. And it gives fodder for this sort of negative chatter, this idea that we build these false equivalencies to what the rejection means. Same. I was like, you're not a good singer. You'll never be on Broadway. You're too short. You're too ugly. Like, same. And it's wild because I don't know that
whole, like, what's wrong with me, right?
Yep.
That's the question. Like, what's wrong with me? What could I have done better? Why am I bad? Was like always just like, what could I have just changed about me to be acceptable?
Versus the idea that you were always worthy to go to NYU. It was a numbers game, or it wasn't a good culture match, or there are so many actually far more logical reasons why neither of us went to NYU or were accepted to NYU. Yet I think at that really tender age, 17, 18, it requires guidance. It requires some other external voices helping move this along. Ooh. I mean, I've never, I don't think I've ever really talked this deeply about this topic, and it's wild. I am curious, like, this validation piece, and I know, like, if I'm not mistaken, your eating disorder soon thereafter sent you into treatment. Like, did the eating disorder disrupt your academic path, and even your artistic path moving forward? Did this sort of like, did the snowball start to fall down the mountain in a particular way? Like, was this a real defining point for that?
It was. And sorry if I'm crying, because it's still hard to think about this, because something I've been grieving for a very long time is the fact that so much of my life got altered and changed because of my eating disorder. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping people not even develop them in the first place.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I think it was already developing to begin with when I was auditioning for schools. So it took away my energy. When I would do the dance part for musical theater departments, I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the energy to keep my breast support. Like, it physically, it robbed me of so much stuff. And then I kept auditioning for schools, and I kept getting rejected because it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And with each rejection, it just got worse.
Yeah.
So I had to miss 2 months of my senior year because I was at the UCLA psychiatric ward, which I love using against my kids, saying I was in the loony bin, so don't mess with me. On a lighter note. So I can poke fun at myself. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So I did have to miss some school. Luckily, they let me do my academics while I was there. They had a whole classroom set up. I got my school stuff delivered there, and I graduated on time. But one of the a very poignant memory I have was when I was there, and two of them, one of them was knowing that my parents came back, and when they were visiting one time, they told me that I didn't get accepted to all the other ones I auditioned for, which I was kind of like, I kind of figured that out at that point because I was like not in a good place. And then they brought the form to help me fill out to get into Cal State Fullerton. And it was like, I was there in the dining hall with them filling out what I needed to sign and stuff. And they just basically fit out the rest for me because I was just so like, just not there. But it was still like, you're still going to college, you know. It was very interesting now that I look at it as like, you still have to go to college instead of like, why don't you take a break type of thing. The other thing that has stuck to me forever was that my two favorite science teachers drove all the way up to UCLA from Los Al to visit me. Because even back then, I was very into science, which makes sense now.
Totally makes sense.
I love my chemistry teacher. I love my oceanography teacher. I was just like science, science, science. But they came up and visited me when I was in treatment. And that was like a big, like, wow, they really care about me. Like they really, like I've made an impact in their classroom. They took the time to drive up to LA to like visit me for an hour.
Yeah.
So that was huge to me. So school, yeah, I graduated. I still did pretty good, even with all of that going on. But I think the thing that really was hurtful was I didn't know how to do theater, how to act, how to do anything when I got out of treatment because I was still in a recovery phase. Everything, I felt numb. I just couldn't experience emotions because I was still pretty underweight. I couldn't access that part of myself. And I got into the musical theater program at Cal State Fullerton. I auditioned, I got into their BFA program there. So that was a huge, big moment for me. But I was still very much in my eating disorder. And even my husband, like 2 days ago, he said something to the fact, because he was at Cal State Fullerton with me. He's like, you were just a zombie. You were just a walking zombie. Like you like didn't talk to anybody. I didn't have any friends. Like I didn't really socialize with anybody. So my college experience was really strange. I still did shows outside of school. I still did shows at school, but it just didn't fill that space that it did before in me when I wasn't in my eating disorder. And this is why I get sad, is because I feel like it robbed me of all those opportunities. It robbed me of being able to fully immerse myself in that again. And by the time I recovered, I changed my major to kinesiology my change to kinesiology was 100% my eating disorder. 100% my eating disorder's decision.
Really?
Yeah, not my decision. 100% my eating disorder's decision. I'm pretty grateful for it now, but it was not my choice. I had started learning about exercise. And of course, with eating disorders, compulsive and extreme exercise is a big piece. So I was compulsively exercising, started taking indoor cycling classes. The first time it was popular, because now it's popular again, but it was popular a long time ago. And original.
Thank you for that, OG. Right. Thank you.
Yes.
Everything 90s is coming back, kids.
Seriously, right? So weird. So I changed my major because I wanted to have an excuse to exercise more.
Wow.
My eating disorder wanted an excuse to exercise more and to be a personal trainer and to be like, well, I have to like look this way and I have to be this size and I have to exercise as much because I'm a personal trainer now. And so it was an easy way for me to hide my eating disorder and still practice it and still be in it with a professional cloud over it.
Yeah, because it comes with a degree.
Exactly.
Wow.
So yeah, that was never my choice. And so, yeah, it's hard because I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, God, why did I do that? But I'm like, okay, I kind of am grateful I did it, but it's still like, it haunts me. A lot of it, like all of this haunts me.
Yeah.
So, and you can't go back.
No.
You can only go forward, you know?
And you are. I mean, yeah, as we'll get into as well, Robyn, like this share is, I genuinely, I'm so grateful that these listeners are going to be able to hear this part of the tale, because while part of this is cautionary, I also think this is, as we continue on this conversation, it's also a triumphant
Mm-hmm.
conversation.
Absolutely.
I think the other big piece we're often talking about college is like, y'all, it's not that deep. I mean, it
Right.
has consequence, but it it doesn't define your entire life. It doesn't define your
Exactly.
career choices. It's a
Mm-hmm.
space for exploration. So I also grieve with you the idea of like not feeling like you were able to explore, like you weren't able to, that your eating disorder did rob you of some of those skills. But I'm similarly thrilled to watch you now find exploration in an academic
Mm-hmm.
setting, because it's never too late, and that's
Right.
it's fascinating because I do think, going back to our drivers, if at a younger age having those resources to help you identify your drivers early
Mm-hmm.
so that you are actually aware of what you're doing, how you're doing, why you're doing, I think is important.
Absolutely.
Well, you did sort of name, and I don't want to make light of the idea that your ED sort of led you to this path of kinesiology, but you also said you're grateful for it. What
Yes.
about kinesiology really worked for you? Like, what did you take that you're grateful for in terms of learning kinesiology?
I feel like it's been so applicable for so many areas of my life. And I think discovering that I truly, one of my main drivers with creativity is also helping people.
Yeah,
So being able, the beauty I had when I had my own business with yoga and Pilates and personal training was the ability to have, I had clients for like 10 plus years, and some of them became like second parents to me.
yeah,
I was a bridesmaid at one of their weddings. I mean, it was like I really developed so many amazing relationships with people. And I feel like using that piece and how can I use my creativity with my degree really helped me figure out how to work with people. And then when I think one of the main reasons I'm really grateful for it is that right after my first child was born, my husband lost his job. And it was like, if I had not had my kinesiology degree and had like built this clientele and I started my own business, I don't know like how I would happen, like going from job to job. I know it's possible, but it's so much more stressful. And so I look back and I'm like, I know me. I don't do well with unpredictability. And so
what?
who would have
Shocker.
guessed? Oh my God. So I'm like, I like predictability. I like stability. And that piece of performing was always just like, I can't, like, that's hard for me.
Yeah,
And so knowing that's still hard for me, even after how many years of therapy, I'm just grateful I did that for myself, for the person I am who likes predictability, because I had that safety cushion for myself to like, I have this resource where I have clients, I have an income coming in, I can do this and we can stay afloat. And so that's there's many times I've been grateful for it because of the stability of it, and that I also found a way to not be judged for. You can be judged in physical fitness definitely for what you look like, but um, my knowledge was kind of the overriding like factor of
yeah,
how I succeeded, and not, oh, you don't look the right part for this. And I don't know how I could. I've done a ton of work on myself. And I still think of like, if I went into a room and was judged on that and I wasn't the right look for something, that still hurts. I can't do that. Cause a while ago, my husband's like, why don't you try, this is before the pandemic, why don't you try like auditioning for stuffing? And I'm like, I walk myself through it and I hear the word no because you don't look right for this. And I don't think it will still feel good with me. It will still hurt. I don't, if I don't have to put myself in that room, I don't want to put myself in that room anymore,
yeah.
because hearing the word no, for things like that still is hard. So that's why, again, grateful for the choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have a hard time with that. And I say, that's okay. Let's make a different choice. That's not going to do that.
And that to me equates to like, we as adults, we do not have to pin our entire lives on the dreams of a 16-year-old.
Right.
We get agency. Funny enough, like I feel the same way about being an actor. People are like, oh, you were successful. You've done all the things, like, and true. But I so appreciate the stability and the control I have over my day-to-day life. Like, don't hate the player, hate the game. Being an actor means letting go of control and allowing others to choose your daily schedule, who you're working with, when you're working. And for some, it's well worth it. And for others, it's not. And that's where, again, I think there's another aspect of creativity. It's like, well, how can you then still use these performance skills, these empathy skills, these skills of human connection? You can apply them anywhere and often find great success and life affirming activities that you can apply them to. And I know that's what's happened to me in this business, the idea of entrepreneurship. It sort of actually it tickles me when you're like, yeah, but it's really stable. It's like, I love that entrepreneurialism for you was stable.
We'll be right back.
Hey, are you the proud parent of a high school junior or sophomore who is also an aspiring artist or creative? Do you worry that maybe your child's artistic passion might hinder their chances at getting into a dream college? Look no further than the Creative College Journey. This is a service designed to help guide your child through the college application process. We understand the unique challenges that come with being an artistic applicant, and we are dedicated to ensuring that your child's application stands out from the rest. From portfolio review to essay editing and understanding the ins and outs of pre-screens, we offer a range of personalized services to suit your child's needs. Now, don't let the college application process overwhelm you and your child. Feel free to sign up for the Creative College Journey today and take the first steps towards a successful artistic future. Visit our website, www.creativecollegejourney.com, to learn more and start your journey today.
Comparing it to performing, it is so stable.
Fair, but it is.
Anything's more stable.
It's wild, but I love that there are places where our bravery feels very, very natural. And it sounds like for you, that entrepreneurial space, your bravery was just like, oh yeah, I got this piece.
Well, creating a website, that's creative. Like, that was super fun for me. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And I love this. It's so funny that you bring that up because I didn't even think about that. But yeah, it is very unpredictable. But I guess because, again, you're not being like told, no, you're not right for this part. It's like someone can say, you know what, I don't like your business because your prices are too high. That's not about you.
Yes.
Right.
Literally.
And you can change that. That's easy to change. Like, you can't change your height. Like, you can't just, so that's where it's like, I can change these things if they don't work. I can't change this if my body or my height or my hair color or my size or whatever, if it doesn't work, because it's me. So that's where it's like, the personal side is like, that's okay. You can tell me you don't like how my business is set up. That's fine, because I don't take it personally.
Yep. Oh, it's so cool. And I think that is the adulting process of like getting to know what really works for you. Where do you thrive? And it might be different than what your 16-year-old self thought. Permission for that. I'm actually, just because I know how passionate you are, will you tell us a little bit about you moving into public health? What draws you to the subject? How do you think it might influence your creativity?
I think being a mom has really influenced my passion to do this.
Yeah.
Going through, there were some early health issues with my son, and then seeing like, wow. And I mean, this was even back when I was in treatment and stuff, how insurance like was just a nightmare. and working with a friend that was actually going into public health with to figure out how to navigate my insurance bill so that I actually didn't have to like pay the things and like use the right words. And I was like, wow, that's interesting how you can kind of get around things. So that was always a thing in the back of my head. And I think also, so my business originally was a fitness studio that focused on helping people that were recovering from an eating disorder and wanted to establish a new relationship with movement and exercise, because that piece when I was in treatment was never fully addressed. And so stumbling through that piece, which was a huge piece for me, was really hard. And I didn't really have anyone helping me through that. And I found that was to be the case with a lot of people recovering. So I was like, well, how can I help people with this? Because this definitely is a thing that needs to be addressed. Yeah. So it was, I mean, there was a lot. I went to so much of a rabbit hole with that and figuring out, okay, like, what is the broader picture with eating disorder recovery? And that was a huge driver for me in just the health space to begin with. And so before the pandemic, I was always like, I just want to destroy the BMI. It doesn't help anybody. It's horrible. It's based on, it was created by a white man, by a mathematician. It was based on white men bodies. There aren't bodies of color that this is based on. This is just racist. It's everything that's just bad. And we're using it to diagnose people. Yep. This is messed up. So I was always on this like, well, how can I destroy the BMI? I'm on a mission. I want to destroy
That's the mission statement.
That was the mission statement. And so I thought maybe if I got like a really high up job at like 24 Fitness or something, then I could like destroy it within that company and then go to the next company and destroy it in the next company. It was like, I'm like on this like mission to destroy it. And I was like, no, I got to go bigger. And so, and then I was like thinking about like public health for a while, because I'm like, I don't want to be a therapist because that's like damage control, because you're already helping someone that has gone through. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to fix it at the problem. Yeah. So that was already kind of a thought. And then the pandemic hit and it was like my business shut down. Everything was shut down. I had to like really think, what is happening with my life here? What am I going to do? So I viewed this pause as a time to really reassess everything that I was doing. So in so many ways, even though the pandemic completely just changed every single aspect of my life, again, grateful for it, grateful for the pause, grateful for the moment to be like, what am I doing? And so I just watching everything unfold, and I still keep track of everything because that's just what I do. I think it's a control. My friends say it's a control issue. I agree. It's a control issue. That's just what I do. I like control. So knowing data, knowing facts gives me a sense of control, even though I may not be in control. It gives me a sense. So the miscommunication that happened within public health, how it got politicized. Yeah. Everything, all of that stuff that divided us from where we were all as one people. We were like, we're going to get through this. We're all as one. We're going to work through this. And then crap happened and people split off and people started getting angry. And looking at it from my recovery of like, I had to give up a lot of crap. I had to give up my freedom 2 times. I went into treatment 2 times. I had to go through this and I had to let go of my old life both times. And seeing people getting upset, like because they couldn't go do something, I'm like, dude, this isn't that big of a deal. Like I had to like literally like give people my shoelaces because I couldn't keep shoelaces with me. I had to wear shoes that didn't have shoelaces. Like, because they were worried of, what might happen with shoelaces in a psychiatric ward. So I think it was easier for me to move through this because I'd been through similar things. Yeah. But I also had the knowledge that you can't go back. You can only go forward. And that's always kind of been ever since I first went into treatment. I was like, you can only go forward. You can't go back. Yep. So how do we change? This is an opportunity to rebuild something different, something new, something better. So what frustrates me is that we, as a society as the whole, like in the whole world, we just decided we weren't really going to do that. And I understand why, because I was there and I would love to go back. Yeah. So for me, there's a lot of what I've learned in my past life and what I want to bring to public health to be like, hey, this is where we're at. Let's be honest. Let's tell the truth. And let's help people and let's make everything equitable, because there is so much inequity in healthcare, and it just drives me crazy. And hearing stories from so many different economic levels of friends in my life of where people are and how everyone thinks they have it the worst. And it's like, well, so and so here and so here. So it's like, we really need to change how we do things. And
that is systemic, like how, like
yes.
changing the systems, like knowing, like when my mom passed away, I was her medical advocate and her nurse, and I had the benefit and the privilege to do that, but it came at a great cost, and it emotional and financial and like time and focus, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But like seeing in that regard, and this is why I'm like, fight on, Robyn, fight on. the amount of advocacy I had to do on my mom's behalf, the amount of double, triple, quadruple checking choices, insurance bills, like it is a full-time job to even manage it, let alone thrive within it and barely survive in it. So I applaud you in this want to like rattle it, change it.
Like, I'm just one person, but if I can do something, I'm going to try my hardest. Because your story is so not alone. Like, I have mom friends that tell me the same thing, that have children that are on the spectrum and getting services, and like just the amount of work that they have to do is ridiculous. It's a lot of work, and this should be easier. It shouldn't be so difficult, and it should be accessible to everybody, because it's not.
It's not.
And I want equality for everybody type of person. And there's so many layers. It's mind numbing. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I got to take a break and read a phantom fan fiction novel for a little bit, so my mind can like not like get angry anymore. Which I do a lot.
Balance.
So, I know. I'm like, okay, it's time to escape in my book and just read about Phantom of the Opera for a little bit so I can be okay. But I just feel like we can't keep going on like this. Like, this is not sustainable for our children. It's not sustainable for anybody at this point. And so I think about my kids. I'm like, God, when they're my age, what is this world going to be like? Where are we going to be at? Like, and so I'm always thinking like, how can I prepare them? How can I do the best I can to make the world as safe, as accessible for them, for their friends, for all the children? Because I'm just like, I think this is where my parents kind of influenced me. They were both in education, so they cared a lot about the future generations, about kids.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. I'm just like, what are we leaving them? Like, what mess is this? This is just, it's just a mess.
And so you're cracking open the books and getting in the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm very excited. How long is your program? 2 years, 3 years, or is it open?
I opted to do part-time, because I'm like, there's no way
there we go.
I'm gonna homeschool them and be able to do full-time. So it's gonna take, I think it's 4 years for part-time, which is, I'm like, when I told them I was gonna change to part-time, they're like, well, it's gonna take 4 years. And I'm like, the time's gonna pass anyway, so what's your point?
I'll have an 8-year-old instead of a 6-year-old. Like, it's fine.
Right. 4 years goes by like that. You're talking to a mom of 3. 4 years is gone with a blink of an eye. So it's fine. I'm fine. 4 years is not a big deal.
I want to step into another sort of question. I'm curious. Again, you've worked in many fields and you've utilized a lot of different skills and parts of your brain. And I think, honestly, what I advise with a lot of young creatives, kids in high school, is realizing like the employment opportunities, the traditional pipeline to employment is changing radically. It's changing via AI, via global warming, via political needs. Like, how people get jobs and how people get paid is changing. And I can guarantee it will be different in 5 years, but I can also guarantee no one knows how. So one of the key aspects to studying any sort of creative major is realizing that you need this adaptability, this perseverance, this ability to pivot. Like having the ability to pivot is actually probably one of the greatest abilities to get hired in the future. So you're a pivoter. I'm a pivoter. Do you have
all thanks to improv?
Thanks, improv. Yes, and do you have an idea of like what sort of like what pivoting skills you've garnered through these different career paths? How have they served you? Do you have any idea of what the common thread is for you that's helped you pivot?
Oh gosh. I think a lot of it has to just do with mindfulness, listening to your intuition. A lot of it, I mean, set aside my decision for kinesiology, which again, I will like say that was 100% my eating disorders choice. But at the end of the day, I am grateful for it.
Yeah.
Everything else after that, there's a book, gosh, I can't remember his name now, but he said like intuition is like a balloon with a string and it floats around. And if you can hold on to it or grab onto the tail, it's like a kite or something, a kite string. And if you can hold on to it and allow it to lead you to where you need to go by saying yes, which is again, improv, by saying yes to so many, when things show up and you take a moment and they sit right with you and you just say, yes, I'm going to try and I'm going to let go. This is the letting go that I'm so good at. I'm going to let go of any attachment or expectations on myself. And I'm going to allow my intuition to let me say yes and guide me to it. I think that is really my through line with so many things. I was not expecting to get into Brown. Like, I honestly wasn't. I was just like, there's an app for public health online, 100% online. Cool. On my Instagram feed. I should look into that. And here I am. And I was just like, oh, I should look into that and like make an appointment to talk and like learn more about it. I'll just learn more about it. It's okay. And then as I kept feeling good about it, because I let my intuition guide me, I was like, I'm going to say yes to this. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to apply. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to try and let go of the attachment, which was really hard to do. Like I said in that post, because it was like, God, am I really going to let myself, am I going to open up that wound again? Am I going to let myself be vulnerable enough to like be exposed and be okay with being told no again? I guess so. I'm like, I have nothing to lose at this point. And I think so much, I might cry again, so much for being a parent and being able to be with my kids every day and showing them like, if you don't try, it's always going to be a no. And it's always, you're never going to get anywhere if you don't try. We say the words to our kids that we need to say to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And so, sorry, I'm going to cry again.
Bring it on. More room on the outside.
So many of the things that I've told my kids over especially these past 3 years, have been things I wanted my parents to say, or I wanted to hear myself.
Yeah.
And so saying it to them really solidified it in me too.
Yeah.
So healing myself was really being the parent that I really wish I had. Hearing the words I wish I had heard. And then when I say them, I'm saying them to myself and I'm re-parenting myself. So when I decided to apply, it was a big like, what would you tell your kids? What would you tell your son? What would you tell your daughter? What would you tell them? You tell them, go for it. What have you got to lose if you don't apply? It's going to be a no if you don't apply. Yep. You might as well. Why not? So I just was like, well, if that's what I'm going to tell them, I better like walk the walk, right?
Yeah.
And I think I owe a lot to them, to being a parent, to so much that I've learned over these past years. I've been in therapy for a long time, and honest to God, being a parent is probably one of the more challenging things, but it's also the most healing thing that I've ever
Oh,
done. Um, so I could have done all the therapy in the world, but having the 3 kids, I think really healed a lot in me and made me walk the walk.
yeah. It
Um,
put it all into action. It
it
sounds
did. It
like
really did.
it's wow.
It's a big fire, I think, when you have kids to like it lights a fire under your butt to do the right thing a lot more of the times because they're watching, they're listening, they know, and it's like if you're telling them to do something and you don't do it yourself, it's like they're gonna see that and they're like not gonna take you seriously. They hold me accountable. They don't know it, but they do.
No doubt. That is so like such a beautiful full circle moment. And I'm really glad and again just grateful to hear it directly from you. This like cognition of it, this seeing it, the ability to um walk the walk. And I think it's wild because again, I'm constantly talking with these 17, 18-year olds and it's
Mhm.
same. It's I'm often trying to share with them the thing that I wish I had heard at that age. And I think that is also a sign of creativity and
Yeah,
empathy and relearning that the no is tolerable, that the no is not actually defining, that the no is actually nothing to be scared of.
right.
There's a lot in it, but if you really look at it from that lens, you know, if only 17 and 18-year-old Scott and Robyn could have heard like try for it. Who cares if you get a no? Like you'll be
Right,
fine.
right.
It's a really magical thing to relearn it now. So rock
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Woo!
I think, it takes a lot to learn that though. And I
Yeah.
think expecting teenagers to understand that is putting a lot on them. I know, like, I mean, I think back of like, not even that, just like scenes and like acting monologues and stuff that we were supposed to understand and fully embody and like understand emotionally. And I'm like, there's no way I could have understood that. And now I look at like certain acting like scenes or monologues and I'm like, wow, I really get that now.
Yes.
Like, I feel like I could really embody that so much better. And we're asking like these teenagers to understand what it means. And we're asking them to understand like that it's going to be okay if you don't get something. And it's a lot to expect of them.
Yeah. But I think that's all the more reason why the language
Hmm.
around these conversations, this especially with 17, 18-year olds, even if they do not fully understand it or fully embrace it, the language used matters because it's what will allow them the ability to let go of it, to not internalize the pain, to not internalize that the obstacles and actually see the larger goal to realize that again it's not like the rejection still would not hurt. It's more a matter of like, hopefully they'll have a few more tools and conversations or access to conversations that will allow them to work through it in a way
Right.
that doesn't impede on their journey.
Right. Absolutely.
It's so interesting. I do always talk finance. I'm curious. Um, well, because college is a financial investment. And
Absolutely.
it can be wildly expensive. It can also be wildly affordable. So I ask everyone through their lens, do you think you overspent, underspent, or got it just right? And maybe like any explanation about loans, scholarships, merit based aid, need based aid. Like how did that play out for you?
So I was very lucky in that my parents had set aside a college fund for me. And so I didn't have to worry about Cal State. And again, at the end of the day, I think that was a good choice because I was still able to get into the BFA program that I wanted to get. I got into a BFA program, and that was pretty much the goal in OSHA. But I didn't have to pay an arm and a leg to go out of state, which was also nice. Well, they didn't have to pay, I should say, because they
didn't come out of the fund.
The ones that it didn't come out of the fund. And I did get some scholarships through. I did some like singing scholarship things that I got, which was good. I think for me, now that I'm like, I applied for grad school and I'm like, I got to pay this. And of course, when I'm like looking into it after the Instagram ad for it, I'm like not even thinking about how much it's going to cost because I'm silly. And thought for a while about doing a different online program because there's a lot of online public health programs now. And I was very surprised to hear that. But I was like, I really want to go here because of their history, of what they offer. And so we met the need base because we are a single income family. I don't know how we make ends meet still, but we do. We figure it out. I get a lot of coupons. So we don't spend a lot of money on unnecessary things. I'm doing student loans. And so, and being part-time, it spreads it out a little bit more, which is nice.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. My husband's so wonderful. He's like, we'll make it work. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. We'll pay it back over time. I feel like we've been through so much as a couple, as a family financially. Yeah. It's kind of made me a little bit more like, we'll figure it out mindset.
Yeah.
We're not so deep in the hole where it's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So I don't feel like I'm overspending on it because for me, it's like, it's the chance for me to really do my next step when I'm graduated. So yeah, I don't think I overspent. And need-based loan was very accessible for me, which I'm very grateful for. So I'm grateful for being through a lot of financial hardship times to be like, this isn't a big deal.
I got this.
This is easy.
Beautiful. And that actually is a benefit of going to school, at an older age where you do have some context of like what you're signing up for versus I think many younger folk that is a very key blind spot. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Final question. This has been so lovely, but I ask everyone this because I love this question of reflection. What's the one thing you wish you had understood about the college application process before you started? What advice would you have given your 17-year-old OSHA self now?
It'll all work out.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't believe myself. That have fun, I think would also be a big one. I think for me, and I think a lot of people get into performing. My kids love to dance. They do it because it's fun.
Yeah.
And I think at some point you lose that because you're worried about the next thing. You're worried about if you're going to get into the school. You're worried about if you're going to get into the show. And that eats away at the fun part. And if you get in, it's fun, but then you have to do it all over again, right? In a couple months. So then it's this constant roller coaster. So it's just have fun, enjoy, live in the moment. It'll all work out if you listen to your heart, if you listen to yourself. So cheesy, Disney movie moment.
No, but it's golden advice.
It's so true.
You actually have the power. That is the one thing we all have control over is enjoying. Again, it also takes me back to your balloon kite. Follow that intuition, permission to follow. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, Robyn.
Oh, it's Wayne Dyer. That's who wrote The Power of Intuition. It's like the first introduction of that book. And that's what made me choose to start my own business. Because I'm like, if I'm really going to listen to this is what I want to do. And everything I hesitate to say this because like everything came easy for me to establish my own business. And I don't want to say if everything's easy, that's what you're meant to do. And if it's hard, you're not meant to do it, because I feel like that's not always the case.
No.
But if it's really a struggle and in your heart, like, this is what I need to do, and you just keep going and going, eventually there will be that opportunity, I feel like. And it's just following that knowing in yourself, like, this is what I need to do. This is where I'm meant to be. If I let go of all the noise, what is really here?
Golden advice. Golden. Robyn, I just can't thank you enough for this conversation, for sharing your heart, your story, your experience. I've always been a big fan of you, but
you're so sweet.
even more so now. I mean, this was really powerful. Your magic. Congrats on this next bit of your creative college journey going to Brown, and I can't wait to see what you do to change public policy and health policy.
Thank you, Scott.
Yay. That's another interview episode of the Creative College Journey podcast. We hope this episode with Robyn Baker was beneficial to you, and we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to listen. If you are in need of some encouragement, guidance, and inspiration for your college journey and would like to work with Scott, don't hesitate to head to our website, www.creativecollegejourney.com, to schedule a free, no-obligation, 1-hour consultation to find out the many ways the Creative College Journey can help you on your path. You can also find Scott Barnhart on Instagram at Scott Barnhart. If you enjoy the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Truly, it helps others find us. And be sure to come back in the coming weeks for more discussions about creative college admissions, lowering the temperature on the process, and the many industry pathways and transferable skills that a creative education and life can offer. Don't forget, it's not where you go to school, but how you go to school that counts. Thank you.